What's going on, everyone? This is Cadman Cycling. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. Back for another Zwift race. Today we're in Crit City, but something a bit different today. We'll be racing with Nathan from On The Rivet, a fellow YouTuber. We talked a little bit before the race, decided to join this one together with a few other Zwift riders and have a go at it, see how we do up against each other. We're both pretty similar abilities in category C, so thought it'd be fun to go head to head. We have about 29 riders in this race. He'll be in the green jersey today, so just ahead of me and on the right there, we'll be tracking him. Green jersey, white socks, have a lot of fun throughout the race. So as many of you know, we're at Crit City, the oldie but a goodie. This is probably my favorite place to race. It's 15.7 kilometers, which is about 9.6 miles, and 8 laps around. We're going in the bell lap direction, so that means we go up this roller section and we'll be going down the cobbled climbs for a total elevation of about 129 meters. So not a whole lot of elevation this way around. Most of it is in that roller section, so if we get feathers, that's where we'll be using them. This is a category C race only, so we'll do our best to stay with the front group. And I'll share the entire race today, so no video, but I'm here on the voiceover. I'll be riding along with you. Throw some music on in the background, but I will add timestamps, so if you're here just for the finish, you're not stuck listening to me the whole time, feel free to go ahead and skip forward. But if you want some commentary about how I'm feeling, kind of what's going through my mind throughout the race, welcome in. I'll be with you for the long haul on this one. These races are generally around 22 to 23 minutes based on the speed of the group. 29 riders today is a decent group, but not as big as I've seen recently. This was actually a Friday night race, so after work on Friday, it was the same day as the first Legion crit, so I think a lot of other riders were joining the crit. Not quite as many at Crit City today for a total pack of 29. The way these races work a lot of the times is the majority of those riders will stay in that front group as long as they can. Oftentimes you get a big front group into a final sprint, so the goal for me, obviously I have an eye on Nathan from On The Rivet at all times. I know he's a capable rider, he has a good sprint too, so no doubt he'll be able to make this front group. I think my goal is just to be as efficient as possible, try to hang out, almost disguise myself in the middle of this group. I don't want to be off the front, I don't want to be falling back, I want to find pretty steady watts that I can hold in the middle. As we're just coming up to the end of the first lap, so we'll go ahead and get our first power up. And just a little bit more about Nathan's channel. I'll add a link in the description below, but he does pretty much all live streams, so kind of one interesting aspect of this race. I also I run Zwift on my laptop, and then on my desk next to me I had my iPad up with his live stream, so probably gave me a bit of an unfair advantage because I did know what his power-ups were most of the time, but of course the live stream is a few seconds behind the live Zwift ride, so kind of fun. I was chatting with him before the race on that live stream. But yeah, definitely check his channel out. Go ahead, subscribe if you haven't already. But with the pleasantries out of the way, he's officially my enemy for the next 13 kilometers. I got a burrito on that first time through the banner, so on my second lap, went ahead and kind of wasted it. Not a whole lot of use for it early on in the race. I'll take my chances, see what I get in the next few times around the lap banner. Crit City is really where I started my Zwift racing overall and my Zwift career. I think when I first started, I really didn't have any endurance. Many of you who follow the channel know that's something I'm still working to build up. Something that comes with time and with really riding. There's no way to build endurance besides just putting in the hours. But In the early days, I had very little endurance, so I would always pick the shortest races, found my way to Crit City, really enjoyed this lap, so continued doing it. And it's kind of where I found my first success in racing, starting in Category D. Had a lot of fun with it. I'm generally not as good at the hills, so I enjoyed the majorly flat track on my way around. So I almost feel like I'm a little bit back at home. I've been trying to get away from Crit City in the recent months, start branching out into other races, build my different capabilities, but being back here, like I said, just feels like home. It's probably been about a month or so since I last raced at Crit City, but I do feel like I know this lap like the back of my hand, which helps once we get to a sprint strategy. I know we're just here on the second lap, but knowing your bearings and where you are on the course at all times is really helpful, especially when it gets to the final sprint. So a little bit surgy here, kind of drop off the back, but want to make sure I don't put in too many watts to jump back on, which I think I did pretty successfully there. Get the ghost power up this time around. So we're 0 for 2 on power-ups. I'll probably just go ahead and use that and see what I get next time around. I see many riders using the steamroller here. It doesn't help going up the hill here. The best place to use the steamroller is on that cobbled section, about the second half of this lap. I see a few Tron bikes being used. Still working my way up that climbing challenge to get the Tron bike. Right now I'm on the Canyon Air Road 2021 with the Zip 808 wheel set. Pretty good all-arounder for the most part. I only switch it up when I start doing some more climbing, which, like I said, try to avoid, but working on building out. So if I'm going up the Alp, I would switch to a different frame and wheel set. Still got a big front group here, so almost 5 kilometers in. Heart rate's getting a little bit high, 185 beats per minute. Trying to keep the RPMs low, around 80 if I can. Legs were feeling all right. And again, just always trying to keep one eye open, following On The Rivet. He's still in this front group. And overall, just first impressions from the start of this race, it was actually a pretty slow start. So I'm a bit concerned with how high my heart rate is. Legs were feeling really good. Honestly, my heart rate didn't feel like it was as high as it was reading on my heart rate monitor. So although my heart rate was kind of high, I actually did feel pretty good. It was a slow pace, I think, because let's see, we have about 20 riders in this front group, so 2/3 of the riders are still with this front pack. But maybe not quite as big of a front pack as I've seen in other races. It seems like Zwift is just growing at such an exponential rate that, especially during the winter, with so many riders that ride on the roads during the summer and then jump on Zwift during the winter, some of these front packs in these races have been huge. Races of 60 to 100 to 150. And if you get a front pack of 40, 50 people, that speed really ramps up. So I think the speed was a bit slow. People were kind of just getting their bearings, trying to save energy in the middle of the pack. That's exactly what I do. So I'm never going to be someone in these races who is really pushing the pace. I'm happy to settle in, save as much energy as I can early on in the race. It's very seldom, if ever, would you see a break in the first half of Crit City actually stick. And generally, anyone off the front would actually get brought back in less than a lap. So this time around, I got the featherweight power up. I found the best place to use it is up that third roller this way around, as it'll end just as I get to the top of the end of the roller section. and the rollers get steeper near the end, so I think that allows me to use the feather up the last 3 rollers pretty well. Probably engaged it maybe a second too early there, as I was still going uphill when it ran out. Something kind of interesting happening here. We do have a bit of a break. I'm in no rush to chase this down, so even though there was a gap starting to open, I kind of keep my power constant, knowing that other riders will surge ahead and kind of really shut down that gap from happening. So now there's no more gap, but it is still strung out, so I put some power on going down the hill. Actually got up to 350 there, probably a bit unnecessary, as now I find myself surging to the front, kind of wasting energy I didn't need to there. I tried not to panic, but it seems like the second I started going downhill, I just put a few extra watts in to make sure I could jump back on with the front group. And just like that, it's all back together, so not more than a couple tenths of a kilometer, and it's back together. Again, surging a bit too much, so I was off the front, kind of stopped pedaling as hard, now find myself off the back up to 300 watts for a second. So not the most efficient racing, but I do feel good, even though, like I said, the heart rate's getting a little bit higher, but overall feel good. Pace has not been crazy fast, but this is really where I need to work on just staying in the middle of the pack. I think Nathan's doing it pretty well. I've been a bit surgy this lap, and it's hardest to do that at the start of races. Really, I find when you're feeling good, you can become more surgy because it doesn't hurt as much to make those efforts, at least at the time. When they start to add up is really near the end of the race, but at the time you don't notice. So when you're kind of at your limit, just trying to hang on, you tend to do a better job, or at least I've found that it's easier to stay in the middle of the pack until you hit your breaking point, obviously. Once you hit that breaking point, you're falling off the back of the pack. But if you're at the point where you're really pushing hard, near FTP, heart rate's reaching your max heart rate, it really forces you to realize you need to stay in the middle of that pack. Otherwise, you're going to get dropped. A lot of times it's when you're feeling good early in the race that it's just a little too surgy. And I say you, but I really mean me. I'm not sure if all riders find that kind of same thinking. But anyway, heart rate's high again, 190. And to be honest, it didn't feel that bad. I don't know what it was. Heart rate just kind of got up and stayed high today, even though I felt like I was controlling my breathing. We are over halfway through the race now, so lap 5, got the draft van. Again, I used that on the roller section. I think that's kind of my favorite place to use that feather and draft power-ups, at least until we get to the final lap. Again, my overall goal is just to stay as invisible as possible. I want to hide in the middle of this pack, save as much energy as possible. And guys, I just wanted to take some time to say thanks for being here. Thanks for watching these videos. I really love interacting with everyone in the comment section after I post these videos. It's kind of interesting because I feel like when I edit these videos and kind of rewatch these races, I myself see where I make mistakes as I'm kind of breaking these down on my own. But it can be completely different and new tips and tactics and breakdowns that you all see that I kind of miss. So when I'm rewatching myself, I see certain things, but then really the tips and tactics that you guys share in the comments have been extremely helpful. I think they've made me a much better racer, kind of starting in Cat D, now working my way through Cat C. But it's really fun to interact with you guys, and it seems like we're all kind of going through the same journey of becoming better Zwift racers. So anytime we can share these tips with each other, I think it's helpful. And I've learned a lot from you guys. You have a lot of Zwift experience. I'll say that for sure. A lot of times I feel like the newbie of the group. I'm at level 19. Actually, interesting thing to point out, because I'm right at the edge, about to get to level 20. If you see the orange bar at the top of the screen, that kind of fills up as you get through the level. So there's just a sliver or two of gray left, about to jump to level 20. Actually do so later in the race. Might be the next lap or two. As looks like we have another bit of a break off the front, so sensing kind of a pattern there. Again, I don't want to shut this down if I don't have to. Watts are around 200. Don't want to put in too much of an effort, because this should be able to come back. But a sense of a little bit of a pattern coming off that roller section. Some of these riders are just continuing to put on the power. It seems like Nathan is getting a lot of ghost power-ups. That's at least the second or third time I've seen him kind of disappear and reappear. Definitely not the ideal power-up to get, especially on the early laps. And continuing that pattern, it seems like it comes together when we get to the bottom of the sprint section. This time I did a little bit better of a job not surging as much down that cobbled section, so I didn't end up off the front. Around lap 5 or lap 6 is really where I started feeling it in the legs. This was kind of different than other Crit City races I've been a part of, in that it seemed like the first 4 laps were actually pretty slow, pretty manageable. But then there was just like, almost like a flip was switched when we got to lap 5, that the pace started increasing, the legs started hurting, really started feeling it. So it went from, I wouldn't say a nice, enjoyable ride, but a manageable race, to, okay, let's hang on for another lap. Let's see how long we can stick with this group. And then if at all we can stay with them, do we have anything left for the final sprint? So speed's definitely increasing, along with the heart rate, along with the hurt in the legs. So just 2 laps left. Now I'm the one with the ghost power up. Seems like we were just trading those off. Generally, and I know I've said this in previous videos, but the second last lap is generally the slowest. Didn't double check if that was the case here. Definitely didn't feel like it, or at least I was hurting a bit more. And we did just get to level 20, so looks like we got a new kit to try out, a nice kit unlock. On the Rivet, got an undraftable there, along with another guy in the black off the front. Kind of interesting to see if he was trying to play a tactic. Anytime you're on the front and drop a undraftable, you never know if that person's gonna make a move, but looks like he didn't, was just trying to save as many watts as possible, see if he could hurt anyone else behind him. Again, he's a strong racer. I've watched a lot of his live streams. I know what he's capable of, so it seems like you guys are all really talented riders. I've seen a lot of you in my races and group rides before, and most of you beat me. So definitely something to work on. As kind of coming here into the last, we're less than 2 miles to go now, so kind of starting to think about strategy here. It seems like we have about 15 left or so in this sprint pack, so still a good amount of riders here. Again, finding myself a little bit off the front, don't want to be there. Heart rate's at 191, completely fine this late in the race. Definitely hurting, but to be expected. I mean, these crits are basically like 20-minute FTP tests. So at this point, still over a lap left. Really no reason to be in the top 5 where I am now. Still kind of hanging into the middle of the back will be fine. As I get into the last lap, and especially the last few turns, that's when I want to find myself a little bit further towards the front, maybe top 5 riders, but no reason to be there now. So we make the final turn. At this point, next lap will already be well into our sprint. Going through the lap banner here, we'll see what we get as a final power up. This is an important one. Hoping I don't get another ghost or burrito, but there we go, burrito for the final sprint. Still valuable, no reason to waste it early on in the lap, especially if I can go a little bit early and get someone in the draft behind me. I can go ahead and use that burrito and hopefully stay in front of them. So last time up the rollers, this is where sometimes you see people make a move. We've seen it on previous laps. So just making sure I up the watts a little bit this time around. Don't need to be on the front, but also want to make sure I'm in a good position, that I'm not chasing coming out of the roller section. Don't want to be wasting all my energy. So actually got up to 450 watts and off the front a little bit. Bit of a mistake there. Don't want to be there. So immediately take the power down, trying to get back into this large group we have, get ready for a sprint finish. Again, always keeping my eye over there on the rivet. It's kind of an interesting turn there. I was in the front, made the turn on the outside, ended up off the back a little bit. So put in a bit of watts to try to get back in the middle of this group. Last time down the hill, 1 kilometer left. Again, finding myself in perfect position, exactly where I want to be, slow pedaling a little bit on the way down. But this is where attacks can start. So want to make sure from here on out, I keep the watts up. Ideally don't want anything below 200 watts or I'm at danger of getting dropped if someone starts to make a move. Plan going in here is start sprinting somewhere around 300 meters, if not a little bit earlier, since I do have this burrito power up. This group really isn't too strung out, so was off the back for a second, but because the front group was so large, just catching up now. Ideally want to be in the middle of this front group, which is exactly where I'm working my way up to. And now I'm in perfect position. So I see Nathan on the right, top 5. I go ahead, hit that undraftable. About 250 meters out is where I step on it. Kind of give it everything I have here. It seems like this front group ahead of me, I wasn't quite able to draft off of. Here comes Nathan around the corner, and oh man, he beats me by about 1/10 of a second. What a sprint. I went a little bit earlier than him, but he just overpowered me there on the sprint. Man, that was a fun race. To think we came down to a tenth of a second. Oh man, we talked after the race. I think we already got a rematch in the works, but Nathan from OTR, congrats on the win. Guys, check out his channel if you haven't already. This was a lot of fun. 3.1 watts per kilogram for him, 3.3 for me. He was much more efficient. Great racing. I have a lot to learn, so I'll continue watching your videos. And guys, thanks for being here. Had a lot of fun with this one. Thanks for sticking in. But until next time, this is Cadman Cycling, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.